You raised your hands in desperate dua. You pleaded with Allah to guide you, to remove from your heart anything that was never written for you. In those quiet hours of the night, your voice cracked in surrender. Ya Allah, if this person isn't written for me, then take them out of my heart. And yet they remain. Their shadow lingers in your mind during Fajr, in your dreams when you least expect, and even in the sacred silence of Tahajjud when it's just you and your Lord. No words, no visions, only that familiar heaviness pressing on your chest, refusing to fade. Now you begin to wonder, is this a sign? Is Allah trying to speak to my heart through these persistent feelings? But my dear brother, my sister, this is where it becomes dangerous, because not every powerful emotion is sacred. Not every deep attachment comes from Allah. Sometimes your nafs wraps itself in the beautiful cloth of spirituality. Sometimes Shaitan speaks softly, disguised as what feels pure, comforting, even divine, and sometimes your heart clings on, not because Allah wants it to, but because you've made that person your emotional Qibla. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you came here hoping for a feel-good message to reassure your desires, this is not that video. But if you've ever been trapped between hope and obsession, sincerity and self-deception, stay, because what we're about to discuss may just save you from calling a test your soulmate. I know exactly how it feels. You're trying so hard to do the right thing. You've made sincere dua, prayed istikhara, begged Allah repeatedly, Ya Allah, if this person isn't written for me, remove them from my heart. Yet, every time you open your eyes, there they are. In your mind, in your dreams, in your chest, their presence feels so strong, so real, so persistent, that it seems impossible to believe this doesn't mean something. You begin thinking, if this was wrong, wouldn't Allah have taken these feelings away? Why does my heart keep pulling me back to them? But here's the part most people never say out loud. Your heart is not automatically reliable. It doesn't always tell you the truth. The heart is a battlefield between what you desire and what Allah knows is best. Between sincere guidance and the whispers of Shaitan, dressed so beautifully, you mistake them for spiritual signs. Shaitan doesn't always attack with fear or obvious sin. Sometimes he whispers through comforting feelings. He knows you won't question what feels right, what feels divinely inspired, but Allah warns us directly in His book. Have you seen the one who takes his desires as his God? Surah Al-Jathiyah 45-23. Ask yourself honestly, have I placed my emotions so high that I now treat them as my guide, even when they oppose what Allah has already revealed? Your feelings may be strong. They may be sincere. They may even feel overwhelming, but intensity doesn't equal truth. The heart is like a mirror. When it's clean, it reflects reality. When it's clouded by loneliness, trauma, sins, or longing, it distorts everything. Maybe you're not seeing divine signs. Maybe you're only seeing what you desperately want to see. That's why Allah didn't leave us to feelings alone. He gave us His words, His boundaries, the teachings of Rasulullah. He gave us logic and clarity, so our hearts don't blindly lead us into pain. Your heart isn't proof. It's a place of struggle. It's why you must constantly reconnect it to Allah, not just to feel good, but to stay sincere and grounded in truth. Before you blindly trust your emotions, pause and ask, is Allah guiding me? Or am I simply guiding myself toward what I've already decided I want? When your heart desperately wants something, every tiny coincidence feels like a sign. You start noticing their name, their posts, their presence, perfectly timed. Even your dreams seem to validate your hope. You begin convincing yourself, this can't just be chance. This must be guidance from Allah. But let's pause and be brutally honest for a moment. Are you really seeing all the signs? Or are you only noticing the ones that perfectly fit what you already want to happen? You quickly recognize the dream. That feels so beautiful. The perfect message that arrives just when you're thinking about them. The coincidences that seem too perfect, but at the same time, you're ignoring how their actions slowly pull you further away from Allah. How their behavior subtly clashes with your faith, your values, your principles. You see the flattering signs, But you overlook the clear contradictions Allah is showing you. Remember, true signs from Allah never contradict His guidance, but you continue to rationalize, maybe they'll change. Maybe Allah wants me to help bring them closer to Islam. But stop and ask yourself sincerely, are you pulling them closer to Allah, or are they slowly pulling you away? The Prophet Muhammad made this crystal clear for us. When someone whose deen and character pleases you proposes marriage, accept them, otherwise there will be trials and corruption. Hadith Tirmidhi, notice carefully, he didn't say, when you dream about them, when you keep seeing their name pop up, when you feel deeply attached. No, he said clearly, whose deen and character pleases you. Right now, you may be exchanging clear standards for vague emotions, trading deen and character for comfort and coincidences, grasping onto random signs, while ignoring the very clear warnings Allah is placing right in front of your eyes. And here's something deeply important to understand. When Allah truly guides your heart towards someone, you will never have 2. Ignore your moral silence, your conscience, compromise your values. The path toward what's right won't be paved with red flags disguised as signs. It will feel clear, consistent, and fully aligned with your deen. So before you declare something to be a divine sign, pause and ask yourself honestly, am I cherry-picking the signs that comfort me, while conveniently ignoring the ones that hurt me? Because sometimes the real sign is not in your dreams. It's in the warnings you keep avoiding, right in front of your eyes. Look, I completely understand how confusing this becomes, especially when you've invested so much emotional energy into someone. Your heart doesn't want to accept that it may be wrong. So it clings desperately to every small coincidence, every fleeting sign that validates your hope. You tell yourself, my feelings are sincere. It must mean something special. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Sincerity alone is not proof of correctness. Real signs from Allah will always align with His guidance. They will never require you to compromise your deen. Enter gray areas that leave you spiritually drained. Feel guilty after every interaction. If this connection is truly from Allah, it won't pull you away from Salah. It won't leave you battling anxiety every night. It won't feel like you're constantly balancing on the edge of halal and haram. And let's be very honest, deep down, you already know when something feels wrong. You know when you're walking that thin line, trying to justify questionable actions just because of strong emotions. You've probably whispered to yourself late at night, if this was truly from Allah, why am I feeling so spiritually drained and anxious? Listen carefully to Allah's beautiful promise in the Quran. And whoever fears Allah, He will make for him a way out and provide for him from sources he never imagined. Surah At-Talaq 65:2-3. Reflect on this deeply. When you place Allah first, when you prioritize your deen over your desires, He promises to make things easy, clear, and peaceful. Ask yourself sincerely, is this situation bringing me closer to Allah or dragging me into deeper emotional chaos? Because if it's truly from Allah, it won't demand that you sacrifice your connection with Him. It won't leave you feeling spiritually exhausted after every conversation or text. Real love, guided by Allah, does not demand that you surrender your self-respect, that you compromise your morals, that you lose your inner peace. The Prophet Muhammad beautifully reminded us, you will never give up something for the sake of Allah, except that Allah will replace it with something far better. Hadith Ahmad. So ask yourself with full honesty, if I had to choose right now between pleasing Allah and pleasing this person, who would I choose? Because if Allah isn't your answer, that's not a sign, it's a warning. If you had to choose right now between pleasing Allah and pleasing this person, who would win? Because if Allah isn't your answer, this isn't a sign, it's a warning. Real signs from Allah aren't there just to fulfill your desires, they are there to fulfill your purpose. And your purpose is always far greater than one person's temporary presence in your life. Let's talk about something almost no one admits openly, especially in our university culture. The silent secret of emotional attachments that quietly form between classes, during group projects, over casual conversations, through late-night texts. You meet someone, maybe through a mutual friend, and suddenly It feels different. At first. It seems harmless. You notice little things about them, how they speak, how they joke, how they smile. Your heart skips a beat every time they walk into class. You tell yourself, it's innocent. I'm not doing anything wrong. But slowly, it grows. Now their presence lingers in your mind during lectures. You find yourself checking their Instagram far more often than you should. Their place in your heart becomes heavier. And before you even realize, you're emotionally invested. You wait anxiously for even the smallest signal that they might feel the same. Here's where it gets even more dangerous. You start dressing up this intense emotion as something spiritual. You convince yourself, maybe Allah placed these feelings in my heart for a reason. Why would Allah keep them in my thoughts if we're not meant to be? And suddenly, every little moment becomes a sign. But here's what's really happening. You're not experiencing divine guidance. You're confusing emotional urgency with spiritual signs. Your heart races, not because this person is your destiny, but because you've become emotionally attached, deeply invested. You've transformed a simple crush into an obsession, wrapped in religious language. Soulmate, destiny, written by Allah. But Allah gives us a powerful reminder in the Quran for moments just like this. Perhaps you dislike something which is good for you, and perhaps you love something which is bad for you. Allah knows and you do not know. Surah Al-Baqarah 2-216. Ask yourself with complete honesty, if this was truly spiritual, wouldn't it strengthen my faith? Wouldn't it draw me closer to Allah, not drain me emotionally? Wouldn't it bring peace, not constant anxiety? Real guidance from Allah never arrives disguised as emotional turmoil. True guidance comes with clarity, peace, certainty, and reality. This urgency you feel may just be loneliness, insecurity, or the desire for validation. These are the exact weaknesses that Shaitan loves to exploit, especially among young people who are trying so hard to stay on the path of Deen. The Prophet Muhammad said something profound. Deliberation is from Allah, and haste is from Shaitan. Hadith, Tirmidhi. This urgency, this pressure to act on your emotions, to call every strong feeling destiny, is the very trap that Shaitan uses. So next time your heart races, pause and reflect deeply. Am I truly seeing divine signs? Or is it just my loneliness screaming louder than Allah's guidance? Because when something is truly meant for you, it will never compromise your peace, demand anxiety, force secrecy, require you to rush ahead of Allah's timing. Let's be brutally honest about a thought you've likely had. If this is really from Allah, why do I feel like I have to hide it? Why do you feel guilty every time you speak? Why are you constantly worried about being caught or seen? You may justify it. We're not doing anything haram, it's just conversations. What's the harm? But deep down, you know something feels wrong. You sense it. When you pray and your mind drifts to them, when you struggle to focus on Quran, when your heart feels spiritually numb, when even your ibadah starts slipping, here's the raw, unfiltered truth. Something from Allah never requires secrecy, sin, or compromise. Real, divinely guided relationships are not built in the shadows. Do not require you to delete messages. Do not force you to hide conversations from your family. Do not require you to justify small sins as harmless. If you constantly feel afraid of exposure, if you're constantly justifying small lies, if you feel spiritually drained, you already have your answer. This is not guidance. It's a trap you've walked into willingly. Think deeply for a moment. Why would Allah guide you to someone who pulls you further away from Him? Why would something pure ever demand secrecy and guilt as its foundation? Allah Himself says clearly in the Quran, good women are for good men, and good men are for good women. Surah An-Nur 24:26. Notice what Allah didn't say. Secretive men for secretive women. Notice something crucial here. Allah didn't say, secretive women are for secretive men. Sinful relationships will somehow turn into blessed marriages. No, goodness only aligns with goodness. So ask yourself, can a foundation built on secrecy, emotional turmoil, and spiritual confusion ever lead to true goodness? In today's modern culture, especially in university and school environments, it has become so common to justify these silent relationships Your friends might even encourage it. It's harmless. You need to explore your feelings. How else will you know if it's meant to be? But behind closed doors, when you're truly honest with yourself, you know something feels deeply wrong because real love, the kind Allah places in your heart, is peaceful. It does not strip away your dignity, drain your faith, force you to hide or lie, fill your heart with guilt, regret, and anxiety. If your connection is causing you more spiritual pain than peace, that's not love, that's emotional dependency. That's desire disguised as divine destiny. The Prophet Muhammad beautifully taught us a simple, powerful principle. Leave that which makes you doubt for that which does not make you doubt. Hadith Tirmidhi. If your connection constantly fills your heart with doubt, anxiety, spiritual unrest, then you already have your answer. Allah would never guide your heart toward something that compromises your spirituality. His path is always clear, dignified, peaceful. Now think even deeper. How many times have you told yourself, "It feels so right. It's too strong to be wrong"? But if that were true, why does it constantly pull you away from your salah? Why does your Quran feel distant? Why does your connection with Allah feel heavier? True guidance from Allah will strengthen your spirituality, sweeten your prayers, draw you closer to Allah, not distract you from Him. It will not leave you spiritually drained, force you to justify small sins, trap you in endless guilt. Let's be completely real. If Allah genuinely intended someone for you, you wouldn't have to fight your own soul to maintain that connection. You wouldn't be drowning in guilt, secrecy, or anxiety. You wouldn't have to tell yourself, Allah understands. Because, yes, Allah understands, but He also commands dignity, transparency, respect for His boundaries. If you're feeling spiritually exhausted, emotionally trapped, morally compromised, then don't call it love, call it what it actually is. Emotional addiction. Attachment dependency, anything but divine guidance. And if letting go feels terrifying, that might be your proof right there. Sometimes the hardest thing to release is exactly what you desperately need to let go of. Real love, real guidance from Allah will not leave you spiritually empty, will not demand secrecy, will not force you into silent guilt, will not leave you in endless anxiety before you tell yourself again, "This is a sign from Allah." Ask yourself honestly, would Allah truly guide me towards something He Himself clearly forbids? The answer isn't hidden. It's right in front of you. Accepting it may be painful, but it's the first step towards the peace you've been begging for. I know hearing all of this might feel overwhelming, even painful, because deep down, maybe you already knew everything I just said. But it was easier to hold on to a comforting illusion than to face reality. But trust me, acknowledging this truth today is far less painful than spending years trapped inside a lie you keep calling love. Allah never removes something from your life without preparing something better in return. It might not feel that way now. It may hurt deeply. You may feel lost, but here's the truth almost no one reminds you enough. Allah sees what you cannot see. He hears what you don't hear. He knows hearts better than you ever will, yours and theirs. When Allah closes a door, it's not to punish you. It's to protect you from a future pain you cannot yet imagine. Allah beautifully reminds us again. Perhaps you dislike something that is good for you and love something that is bad for you. Allah knows and you do not know. Surah Al-Baqarah 2-216. Your emotions may not understand it today. Your heart may still ache, but trust Allah's wisdom more than your feelings. Trust His mercy more than your emotions, because Allah is not trying to break your heart. He is trying to save your soul. The Prophet Muhammad comforted us with a promise. You never leave something for the sake of Allah, except that He replaces it with something far better. Hadith of Myth. This isn't just a comforting phrase. This is a divine guarantee. So yes, maybe you lost someone you thought was everything. Maybe your heart still hurts, but imagine what Allah must have waiting for you. If He asked you to let go of what your heart desperately clung to, today, choose to trust Allah's wisdom, even if your heart struggles to keep up. Today, choose His promise over your fears and desires. Let's end this emotional journey with a simple but powerful sinful relationships for blessed marriages.